This is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real events or persons is purely coincidental. This story is purely fictional and does not promote or encourage any form of violence. He was such a giving man that he wanted to end the war he had profited from so richly. An opportunity to speak with me. Isn't that why I am here? No. You are here so I could assess whether you would be worth recruiting, or whether we would have to use you in some other way, ways that would not include your blessings or knowledge. USO 205. Tyler was taken aback. He felt the remnants of the Admiral's spirit bridling at that obvious display of power. Who was this man, and who was he working for? I will not meet with any strangers, Tyler replied. Either tell me who you are working for or with, or let me leave. He was as resolute as he was scared. Nayland sat back, leveling his piercing stare at Tyler from across the table. He sipped more wine before coming to some conclusion. Admiral, did you think it strange that we had the same name when we met? Nayland asked quietly. Yes, I suppose so. It isn't a very common name, although I hear it is becoming one. Indeed. Nayland folded his hands neatly in his lap. It is not common among your generation, or mine for that matter. In fact, I would guess that when you were born, there were only half a dozen or so on the whole planet, myself and my father included. So, what are you trying to say? That I was named after you? Yes. Please. You have no proof, and I have heard no such tale from my parents. It is coincidence. Really? A coincidence that I worked with your father on Krildon, and that we have the same rare name? Tyler had to admit, it appeared more than a coincidence. I have no proof that you worked for my father. You could tell me anything. Tyler watched as that made him pause. Nayland stared before standing up. He made a slight signal with his hand, and the view screen on the wall displayed a picture of the Admiral's parents and what must have been a much younger Nayland. All three were standing together, arms around each other, smiling. The scene didn't give enough details to make out where it was, but the photo did appear genuine. Of course, it could easily be faked. Nayland turned towards Tyler. We will contact you within the next day or two. At that time, we must have an answer as to your intent to meet the others, or to sever all ties and go it on your own. Thank you for your time, Admiral. My associate will show you out. Before Tyler could respond, Nayland turned and left the room. Tyler was stunned. Had he been too cautious, or not cautious enough? Clearly Nayland and whoever he worked with had power. 206, Admiral's ghost. Tyler could access the Admiral's memories, but found nothing so insidious. Of course, the Admiral had avoided politics, and now at least it appeared it would be his downfall, or rather Tyler's. Tyler followed the assistant back into the lift, and couldn't help wondering whether this were a ruse by the palace. It fell into character with Regent Sneerd's record of dealing with people who opposed the Emperor or stood in the way of their agenda. In more than a few instances, councilmen had found themselves in unusual predicaments that forced them to resign their seats on the Supreme Council. Not surprisingly, these poor men had differed with the palace on some crucial issue that had been held up during a vote. In general, the Imperial Palace got most of what they wanted within the Council. Despite its design and intentions, the Supreme Council was a figurehead parliament that rarely made major changes that weren't designed or supported by the Imperial Palace. The Emperor and his staff were the true power of Pulto, and as Tyler reviewed these facts, he began to understand how thin his odds of coming out ahead would be. He could read the headlines now. Pulto's greatest hero, traitor to home world. It smelled like a trap. It felt like a trap. Yet something about Nayland confused him. Why would Nayland want to trap the Admiral? Did he really support the Emperor? Had he really worked with the Admiral's father on Krildon? How could he benefit from an attack plan that would surely fail? Resupplying the fleet, that's how. Was that it? Tyler thought. Do you intend on rebuilding the destroyed fleet after the Vice Admiral's plan fails? Was greed the real motive here? Tyler didn't think that was it. Something about Nayland gave Tyler the feeling he wanted more than money. He wanted power. But what kind of power? To hear Nayland himself, he already had a great deal of power. It was simply behind the scenes. Did he want to be in front? Did he want to be the new emperor? Not since the emperor's ancestors united Pulto had there been a coup, or even a plot. At least not in the open. Tyler wondered if coups happened frequently, but were kept quiet after being uncovered. If that was it, then why did they need the Admiral? Of course. They needed to seal their authority after the failure of the Vice Admiral and Emperor's plan. The Admiral would be a prominent figure to legitimatize their claim to power. UOSO 207 still. Something didn't feel right, and Tyler realized he was in over his head. Plots within plots within plots. Tyler wondered how a politician ever survived. He understood why USO was so distasteful to the Admiral. He remembered Raoul once talking about the politics within their organization, but at the time, Tyler had ignored what he'd said. Now he understood the precarious position you held with power, and why the Emperor did so much to maintain it. Using the fictitious call as an excuse, Tyler begged Greeland's forgiveness for having to leave early. Although she was obviously disappointed, she took the news stoically since her friends had at least seen her with the Admiral. Since the evening was early, Greeland said she would stay with her friends. Tyler, thankful for that arrangement, agreed. He thanked her for the wonderful evening and left with promises to do it again sometime. Before leaving, Tyler was graced with an awkward introduction to Tuzia's friend. The man appeared friendly and did not seem upset at having to be stood up after so short a time. Tyler offered Tuzia the opportunity to stay for a while longer, but she turned it down, undoubtedly wanting to hear more about why they were leaving so quickly. She appeared calm, but Tyler imagined what crazy thoughts were running through her mind. Unfortunately, he wanted to tell her everything, but was afraid of what that might do to their relationship, especially since it bordered on treason. After arriving at their quarters, they separated to their respective rooms to prepare for bed. They had spent a quiet, somewhat tense ride back, with Tyler keeping quiet while Tuzia maintained her patient demeanor. He knew that would change. Tyler slipped into bed confused and overwhelmed with fear. Even the Admiral's great courage did not help. The Admiral had faced death many times, but this new menace was far worse. At least in battle, the Admiral understood every threat. In politics, he knew almost nothing. Everything he thought he knew could be wrong. The complexity, the suspense, and the fear of being branded a traitor hung heavy. It was a true test of his ability to be more than the substances dealer from Earth. He was beginning to sense it wouldn't end well. 208 Admiral's ghost. He heard sounds in the hallway, and a silhouette of Tuzia appeared in his doorway. The light from behind gave Tyler hints of what lay beneath her gown. She stood silently, considering what to say. Tyler helped. "Do you need something?" he asked. "I need you to be honest with me and tell me what is bothering you. What is so secret?" She remained in the doorway, arms crossed and adamant. "Nayland, you have kept me out of your life for too long, and I am not going to let you do it again. Not now." Tyler heard resolve and pain in her voice. He cringed as her pleas to be involved tore at him. He didn't want to hurt her or disgrace her family. What would she do if he told her? She could be culpable if she knew, and it all went bad. He froze in indecision. "Damn it, Nayland, tell me what is going on. or I will leave this time and never come back." He realized she was about to cry, and another stab of pain shot through him. He had to tell her. Without her, he was nothing and didn't want to continue the charade. "Okay, Tusia, okay. Please come inside and shut the door." As he said it, he imagined Naylan watching the scene from somewhere far away and secret. He had no illusions that Naylan could eavesdrop anywhere within the Capitol complex. Nonetheless, he had no other option than to tell her. Tusia quietly closed the door and moved towards the light switch on the wall. "Tusia, please keep the lights off." He didn't know how to finish. If she knew how insecure they were, she would probably get scared. She accepted and moved through the darkness towards the bed. The dim light coming in through the windows allowed him to see her ghostly figure stop at the side of the bed, arms crossed, waiting for him to reveal it all. A halo of light surrounded her as Tyler watched with his second vision. He slid to the other side of the bed, flipping the covers back for her to get under. She hesitated, but finally slipped underneath, while maintaining a respectable distance. He expected that, but having her near was comforting. "All right, Naylan, what is going on?" she asked quietly. He wasn't sure how to start, so he simply began from when he received the note from Naylan. She listened silently as he recounted his encounter, properly editing out the screen showing USO 209 views from inside the Imperial chambers and their own quarters. He impressed upon her his belief that Naylan held a great deal of power behind the scenes. He laid out everything, including his theories about the motive behind Naylan's desire to recruit the Admiral. Tyler finished with an apology for keeping it from her earlier. He explained how he thought he had now endangered her by involving her in the plot. She lay on her side, facing him, her non-emotional face glowing in the sparse light. He watched her thinking about what he'd said, but couldn't read her thoughts. She looked directly at him, no emotion to betray her. "I need to sleep on this." With that, she turned over and backed up next to him. He was too stunned for words, so he simply wrapped himself around her. His thoughts were a jumble of emotions, fear, and confusion, but having her next to him pushed those thoughts aside as they both fell to sleep. Although sleep came easily for Tyler, it was not restful. In his dreams, he stood within a big ring, the darkness only pierced by several overhead spotlights shining around him. Above him, he caught a glimpse of what appeared to be a trapeze, and around him, other circus equipment sat quietly. The lights kept moving, but within the darkness, Tyler heard nothing. He was obviously in a circus, and it didn't feel like a dream. He looked down at himself, dressed in a red tuxedo, with knee euphoric state, black leather boots, to finish off the ensemble. In his left hand, he held a large megaphone, which he threw to the ground. He recognized the body as that of the old Tyler from Earth. "Hello, is anyone there? Tosolan?" He imagined the friendly god appearing to help him through the mess he found himself in. Only his own voice echoed back. Surely this was something Tosolan would do, since Tyler had plenty of memories of the circus from when he was a child. Now, however, he was the ringmaster. So where was the god? He began to think it really was only a dream, but it felt so real, and he felt so awake. He remembered everything about the night before, the casino, Naylan, and confiding in Tusia. 210 Admiral's ghost. A voice coming from every direction spoke. It was a mistake telling her. The voice was familiar, yet strange. "Tosolan?" Tyler asked. The voice replied, "Tosolan is not here. Only you and I." Tyler was spooked, but found courage. "I know who I am, but who are you?" he demanded. One of the spotlights swung around from behind to stop across the ring. The light rested on the opening of a dark portal. Loud circus music began to play, and Tyler covered his ears to block the absurd sound. It didn't work. It was just as loud. Suddenly, a small car emerged from the portal with a clown at the wheel. The music played louder as the car rambled through the ring, making its way towards Tyler. The clown appeared to be performing for some unknown crowd, waving, gesticulating, and clowning around. The car stopped 10 feet in front of Tyler, and the clown stepped out, falling to the ground with a look of surprise. It stood up in an exaggerated display of surprise, pulled up its oversized pants, and waddled to Tyler. Tyler watched the charade patiently, waiting for the clown to reveal itself. When it spoke, it was the voice from the darkness. "Howdy, Tyler. Guess who I am?" Tyler looked at the caricature and spotted something familiar. He looked through the thick makeup, trying to piece together who was beneath it. It came slowly, but startled him nonetheless. He could clearly see the Admiral's face. "What is this?" Tyler demanded. "Who are you?" "At the moment, I am you. Or at least I am the person you have created on this world." "What are you talking about? What world?" "Pulto. Then, I am to believe you are Admiral Oslu on Pulto. Last time I checked, there isn't a circus, so where am I?" He became upset with the charade. "Oh, you are on Pulto, but this is a fabrication I created so we could talk. Just me and you, or is it you and you?" The clown laughed at the pun, and something chilled Tyler. "Adani." He was certain it was the alien. "Ah, the ringmaster speaks. Listen all who shall obey." Heavy sarcasm came through Adani's voice. "Uso 211. "Adin, what do you want?" Tyler asked, desperately seeking a way out of the absurd prison. He pushed mentally, trying to force Adani into his subconscious, but nothing worked. "Wondering why it is not working?" Adani asked. "Perhaps because I am in control here where you have exiled me." No mistaking the anger. Tyler was shaken by the revelation. Did Adani control his unconscious dreams? Tyler didn't think it possible. "You better believe it is possible." The clown looked directly at him, an angry gaze holding a great deal of menace despite the comical clown makeup. "I have worked quietly in this place, building my empire, while you tried to destroy the one you control. I can keep you here as long as I want, as long as it takes to take down the body you are in." Tyler felt fear. "What? You can't do that. I am making progress." "Progress?" The clown laughed. "Is that what you call it? You're on the brink of disaster and don't even know it. I sense your fear. You're totally out of your league." Tyler knew the alien was right, but that wasn't what Tyler had meant. "Ah," the clown sighed. "You mean progress with that woman you are pretending to love? The Admiral's wife?" Tyler didn't like the way Adani made it sound like adultery. Maybe it was. Was he only pretending to love her, or did he really love her? "Right," the clown jeered. "And I suppose you want to settle down and start a family or something just as ridiculous." "She can't have children. But yes, I would like to settle down with her." Tyler was livid. It was unfair Adani could read every thought. "Fat chance," the clown mocked. "You are about to destroy yourself and her, if not the world. I have seen it all before, my friend. Fallen hero, tragic endings. It is a classic tale, played throughout the universe, since time began. And I suppose you could prevent it, given the opportunity." Tyler saw where this was heading. Blackmail. "Clever lad, but you spoil the offer." "What offer?" "To take over and exile me to this place." Tyler knew he couldn't trust this alien, even if it could help. 212 Admiral's Ghost. Of course you don't trust me, as I don't trust you. But look at it this way. I control you here, and you control me there. As long as you need to sleep, I will be a regular part of your world, whether you like it or not. But if the Admiral dies while you imprison me here, I will be released, and once again have control, Tyler concluded. Yes, something like that. The clown conceded. Then, by all means, hold me here until I die. Then we'll see what happens. The clown shot Tyler a dour look. I don't want that same as you. Nonetheless, I am prepared to wage battle every night. It will take its toll. Is that what you want? Tyler thought about it, but didn't like the alternatives. How come I can't hear your thoughts? Tyler was curious why Adani had the upper hand. I have more experience than you do. Besides, it was I who gave you the Admiral's memories. Where would you be without them? Fine. I admit you were helpful, so what do we do now? Tyler wanted this over. He wanted to end it without giving too much away. Now we negotiate for your life, as the Admiral. I said fine, Tyler replied. What are your terms? A truce. Nothing more, the clown replied. Tyler scanned the Admiral's face buried beneath the grotesque mask, but could read nothing. Well, he had to do something to get out of here. Okay. What does that mean? Tyler asked. It means I am no longer exiled to here. Instead, I am allowed to be a part of your life out there. I can observe, comment, and assist. I don't want control. I only want a piece of the action. Tyler felt confident he couldn't trust him, and the thought of having someone watching, commenting, and participating was disturbing. It's too much to ask. I cannot live with another voice within me. Hogwash, the clown retorted. You live like that now. The Admiral's memories are not yours, and yet you let them live side by side with you, affecting your decisions and behaviors. What is the difference? Tyler went on the defensive. It is a big difference. The Admiral is dead and you are not. Uso 213. No matter. The end result is the same. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. The clown stood stolidly, knowing he had Tyler on the ropes. Tyler couldn't see any way out. He would either share his life with Adani or be persecuted every night in his sleep. Tyler remembered his life as the drifting spirit, and he didn't relish returning there. Fine. I see I have no choice, so I agree. However, if I sense even a little exertion of your control on me, I will exile you permanently and remain a wandering spirit forever. Tyler hoped he sounded threatening. Sure you would, the clown replied, unconvinced. Whatever you say. Remember, I can hear all of your thoughts. You are transparent to me here and there, but I get your drift. Good, as long as we are clear, Tyler replied. Clear as your thoughts. The clown agreed. Now if I am to have a part of this life of yours, I need to help you make it right. Now that wasn't part of the bargain, Tyler argued. You said observe, not make decisions. Cool down, Admiral. I am here to help you out of the mess you seem genuinely destined to get yourself into. I can be of great assistance as my wealth of experience is enormous. Okay, I'm listening. What is your advice? Tyler waited impatiently. Not now, my friend. Up there when you are awake. Fine. Will you release me now, or must I wait for additional concessions? Tyler was exasperated and wanted out of the three-ring prison. Don't look at me. Just wake up, the clown said. Tyler thought about it and watched as the clown, the circus, and the spotlights dissolved into his subconscious. Tyler woke restless in a dark room where Tusia still laid beside him, fast asleep. He thought about the circus dream and Adani. Was it real, or was it just a dream? You bet it was real, and don't force me back down there. Fine, fine, you can stay, but remember what I said, Tyler replied. All Tyler heard was fine in response. 2:14 Admiral's Ghost. Tyler checked the clock and saw he didn't need to get up for another 2 hours. After wrangling with Adani all night, he no longer felt like sleep. He slipped out of bed, donning a robe, before quietly walking to the living area. He was happy to have Tusia close to him, but feared what he had told her. She was not a delicate woman, and was better versed in politics than Tyler. But this was something entirely different than ordinary politics. He wanted to wake her and ask her advice, but he decided to let her sleep. He sat down on one of the overstuffed chairs and turned on several screens to watch the latest news around Pulto. In his current mood, he truly felt like an alien on an alien world. He watched several of his favorites shows, but somehow he wasn't getting the same thing out of them. He knew why. For all the celebrity the Admiral enjoyed, he was nothing more than a puppet of forces he didn't understand. Before he'd come to Yuso, Tyler had thought of himself and the Admiral as a true force to reckon with. But now, that illusion had faded. Only days before, he had watched these programs with a mind towards helping the citizens of Pulto. Now, however, he realized he didn't even know them. How could he? He was just an alien pretending to be a hero. Stop being melodramatic. There are worse things in this universe. Trust me. Adani's voice didn't help. It only aggravated his alienation. He'd become a schizophrenic alien. Please. I'm going to cry. It's no wonder you've screwed this up. I've screwed it up? Like I had a choice. Tyler was angry from his accusations. He wasn't the one who wanted to be an Onyulum. He hadn't caused the accident. Of course you had a choice. You chose to be the Admiral, you chose to live on his world, and you chose to take on the powers of this world. What did you think it would be like? You picked this world's national hero, and now you say it wasn't your fault. Tyler listened patiently, his anger simmering. Of course he was to blame for getting caught in the Admiral's body. Sure, he could have avoided this world, skipped past the floundering ship and found another world that was peaceful and simple. But was that what he had wanted? Adani interrupted his thoughts. Yuso 2:15, you never wanted simple, you wanted excitement. As I want excitement. I can read your past memories. I know what you did, and I know how you felt when you did it. You felt alive, spirited, and in control, even when you were not. Isn't that what you want? Tyler had to admit, he missed many aspects of his previous life. Was it the never-ending parties he missed? Or Linda? He wasn't sure. But as he recalled his past, he yearned for something to ease the tension he now felt. Perhaps a small glass of one of the Admiral's finest vintages. Surest escape, now that you've messed everything up. What do you think Tusia would say? You drinking so early in the morning? Tyler tried to ignore the rebuke. I do my best thinking after I have had a few drinks. He tried to sound convincing, but even he saw the problem with drinking so early. Still, the alien wouldn't back down. Shape up. We have work to do. You can have a drink later, when it is more appropriate. Remember, I feel the effects, too. A wicked thought crossed Tyler's mind. Was that how he could suppress Adani? Don't bet on it, the alien warned. Adani's voice was steely cold, so Tyler pushed the thought aside. Damn you, Adani. Listen up. You've put the Admiral in a very precarious position. Gee, like I didn't know that. How was the obvious going to help? You've got to meet with Naylan and his party immediately. So you're saying, since I am already in it deep enough, why not go all the way? No, what I am saying is that you need to know, must know, Who is behind Nayland? If it is a plot by the Imperial Palace, you need to know right away to appropriately plan a defense. Remember, the Admiral has a great deal of political clout, so he can always find a way out. However, without knowing what you are up against, you are steering blind. And what if it is not a palace plot? Tyler had the feeling something or someone else drove Nayland. Then, you must know that as well. Nayland has a huge advantage over you, but you must find a way to overcome it. The Admiral's intelligence is clearly insufficient, though not for trying. 216 Admiral's Ghost. At this point, nothing Marshal Sliss can do will help you. He is too far out of the loop and could make things worse. You are the only one who can get the intelligence we need. Tyler thought about what Adani was saying. The logic seemed true on the surface, but Tyler still struggled to trust him. You seem to have put a lot of thought into this. When you have nothing to do but observe from a distance, what else are you going to do? Adani replied bitterly. Point taken. Still, I am a little apprehensive about taking this further with Nayland. He gave the Admiral more than a small threat, and based on his apparent resources, I believe him capable of anything. He definitely has resolve, but what motivates him is a mystery. I have to consider Tusia and her safety as well. She is a big girl and can take care of herself. Still, you could always send her to the estate in Tuland until things settle out. Tyler thought about her leaving and felt a pang of pain at the prospect. Things were just beginning to change with her, and he didn't want to jeopardize that based on his fears. After all, without her, what was the point? She can stay for now, but I may have to send her off if things heat up. Tyler hoped they would not. Nayland, the voice from behind, startled him. Wah. Oh. Tusia, sorry. You startled me. What are you doing out here so early? She asked, just catching up on some news and thinking about things. He tried sounding convincing. He really wanted that drink, regardless of what Tusia might think. She looked at him through beautiful eyes, and the figure underneath her nightdress aroused his desire. Stop it, Tyler. Keep control. I say go for it. Adani responded. May I join you? She inquired quietly. Oh, sure. Have a seat. She moved around the room and settled into another soft couch next to Tyler's. She sat down gently and pulled her legs up onto the couch while leaning against the armrest. She held her head in her hands and leveled a concerned look his way. He felt embarrassed. USO 217, he fumbled with the remote but finally turned off the viewers. He wasn't sure why he was so nervous. They had just slept in the same bed. Still, he hadn't been in a relationship since Linda, and he felt like a teenager on his first date. Something is different about you, Nayland. Something I can't put my finger on. She stared at him, emotionless. Really? He said, surprised. I don't know, I feel the same. Do you? She smiled gently and looked down at Tyler's waist. Apparently, the Admiral's body responded to her regardless of Tyler's nervousness. He didn't know how to respond to this obvious interest in her. Don't worry, dear. I won't tell if you don't. Her smile turned mischievous, and Tyler felt the Admiral's body responding in kind. Tell. Oh yes, tell. He was not handling it well and felt the fool. Thankfully, she took the lead, standing up from the couch, heading to the bedroom. As her nightdress gently brushed her body, Tyler felt an intense desire overwhelming him. He had to have her, and he hoped desperately that this was what she wanted. She stopped at the doorway, turning her head over her shoulders. Are you coming? Tyler's heart beat in his chest. A marathon runner before the big race. He stood, watching as she slid her nightdress off before slipping into the darkness of the room beyond. Tyler quickly followed, his arousal prominent. He closed the door quietly and slipped under the covers, nervous, excited, and feeling like he was 19. As he touched her skin, the colored lights danced in a procession of the parade that would soon follow. They matched the rhythmic pace of his own, and together they lit the room with the glow of love. While Tyler enjoyed his breakfast, while scanning the notes his staff created in preparation for the final day at the conference. Today was the day the Vice Admiral would unveil his plan to the Supreme Military Command. According to rumor, it would be presented as the next plan of attack, blessed by the Imperial Palace, and therefore not expecting objections. The Admiral's staff was diligently recruiting military command members to their side, but it was still in favor of the 218 Admiral's Ghost Vice Admiral. Consensus was the Admiral had lost face with the bitter defeat in his last battle. The losses had been euphoric state, and the strategic advantage it bought was too low. Apparently, many held doubts the Admiral's abilities were still capable of leading them. They revered and respected him, but many now felt new blood and new ideas were needed. There was little Tyler could do to prevent the vote of approval from the Supreme Military Command, so his only hope was to have his supporters change the tide with debates after the presentation. He had big guns on his side, and they could sway others who were still uncertain. However, the Vice Admiral was also heavily armed. The biggest being the Imperial Palace. Supreme Military Command posts were allocated through the Imperial Palace, and Marshal Sliss had mentioned more than once that many inside the command were going to use this as an opportunity to move up in rank. At what cost, Tyler thought. Fools, all of them, Adani interjected. They'd sell their mothers for $1. A phrase from your world, I believe. Very apt. Must I hear you so early in the morning? Tyler pleaded. So early. Why it is late. Fortunate for you, the conference starts late today. After last night, I am surprised you woke at all. Tyler could almost hear a grin in Adani's words. He had to admit, last night had been wonderful. He had left Tusia sleeping soundly when he'd got up. He felt more alive than he ever had. He, or the Admiral, or both, truly loved her. He finished his briefings and rose to leave. The Marshal had requested a short meeting before they entered the conference and had hand-selected a private room for the occasion. Tyler figured he wanted to know about the meeting with Naylin. After what Naylin had shown him, he doubted the room the Marshal selected was as private as they wanted. Nonetheless, he felt refreshed and ready to do battle. As he passed the hallway leading to his quarters, he heard Toosia call to him. He stopped and waited for her to meet him. He smiled gently as her beauty brought back fresh memories of the night before. Yes, dear. What is it? I must be going. He wanted to stay with her, but knew this day was too important. I just wanted to say goodbye, and thank you. She leaned casually against the wall, USO 219. Oh yes. Goodbye, Tusia. I'll be home late tonight. We have the big presentation today. He knew she understood. Yes, I know. I hope all goes well. She hesitated. I wanted to tell you something else, but if you must leave, it can wait. No, please tell me. He figured he could spare another minute for her. Perhaps she would share something from her father. Oh well, She stopped, as if in concentration or confusion, and the look didn't suit her. Tyler wasn't used to seeing emotion on Tusia's face, and it concerned him. Go on, dear. What did you want to tell me? He tried not to sound impatient. I just wanted to say how happy I am we are back together. She said it with a strange finality, but Tyler accepted it at face value. Me too. Me too. He kissed her gently on the cheek and said goodbye. He left her standing in the entryway, a gentle smile on her face, but a look of concern creasing her eyes. When Tyler arrived at the designated location, two smartly dressed soldiers stood on either side of the door. As he approached, they snapped to attention and saluted in unison. He returned the salute before entering. The room was filled with a large table in the center, like many of the conference rooms in this facility. This one, however, had multiple viewers lined around the room's inner walls, much like the one Tyler had met Naylan in. Tyler knew the viewers were designed to allow those inside to see outside, but he wondered who was outside looking in. He casually scanned the room, but couldn't tell if any spy devices were being employed. The Admiral had limited memories of spy equipment. Apparently, he'd left that work for others. Even alone, the Marshal sat at a seat on the side of the table rather than at the head. Clearly, the head of the table was for someone in command, like the Admiral. Tyler nodded to the Marshal and walked to the other end of the table, taking the requisite seat. "Good morning, Gulen," Tyler began. "What news brings me here?" 220 Admiral's Ghost. "Good morning, sir. I have some disturbing news I must share with you before the conference." Tyler watched as the Marshal fiddled with his device, obviously deciding which news to give him first. "Yes. What is it, Marshal?" Tyler switched to the formal title, hoping to get the Marshal out of what looked like an embarrassing conundrum. Yes, sir. Well, I'll start with news about the conference first." Tyler was glad to see the Marshal stopped wavering in indecision and returned to his usual authoritative military demeanor. "We have heard this morning, from a reliable source, that Secretary Guern is switching his support to Vice Admiral Thiessen." The Marshal stopped to let that sink in. Tyler reviewed the Admiral's memories of Secretary Guern and was impressed by the man's obvious skills. He had held many posts in the Supreme Military Command and was currently in charge of military installations. It was not a powerful position, but a position that required quality skills as an administrator. It was often a position given to those who would never achieve true command status, but were still an invaluable asset. His advice and guidance over the years had served the command well. What was the motivation? He was nearing retirement age and had never shown interest in power or position before now. He had always been a strong supporter of the Admiral's. He was even a close friend of the Admiral's father before the war. It didn't make sense, and Tyler said as much to the Marshal. "I agree, but the source is very reliable." The Marshal said, "Okay, so what does the staff think?" Tyler knew that the Marshal would have run it past most of the staff before meeting with the Admiral. The Marshal may be out of the loop, but he was still a powerful asset. After postulating many theories, we settled on blackmail. The Marshal delivered it with a cold, blank face. Vice Admiral Thiessen blackmailing a secretary of the Supreme Military Command. I hardly think that is probable. It didn't sound possible to Tyler. How desperate was Thiessen? Very desperate. Adani's voice held a chill. "We do not believe the Vice Admiral is the one perpetrating this, sir." USO 221. "You don't, then who?" Tyler knew who before he had finished the question. "We believe Regent Sneerd is behind it. We recently discovered Secretary Guern has battled a gambling problem for most of his life. Apparently, he got into trouble with a local thug named Seer Noose, and this in turn compromised his position on the facility's funding committee for lucrative contracts. Seer Noose has a front company that is the sole provider of chairs for all military facilities." "Chairs?" Tyler was incredulous. "Yes, sir. Chairs. What a tangled web we weave." Tyler could just imagine Guern quietly trying to push for Seer's company in the meetings. He would never have been suspected. Tyler thought back to his previous life and the many substances users who got themselves into trouble. Fortunately for Tyler, He had never been involved in the enforcement end of the business, but he knew it could be bad. Blackmail was common, but someone had suspected Gern and used his weakness against him. It had to be sneered. "We've a what, sir?" the marshal asked. Tyler saw the confusion on the marshal's face and quickly remembered that spiders were not part of the Pooltoe ecosystem. They had a similar creature on this world, but they used forest materials to build traps, not webs. "Oh, sorry, just an old saying my grandmother once used. Not sure what web means." Tyler lied. The marshal let it pass and moved on. Apparently, the abuse of his position was mysteriously overlooked by the accounting office audits, and that is why we believe Sneered is behind it. No one but the palace could wield so much control of the accounting office. Except maybe Nayland. Tyler let the thought pass and focused on what it meant to their efforts. "Damage?" He asked it simply, knowing the marshal would give it to him simply. "I believe this will spell our defeat." He was a staunch supporter, and his betrayal will pull many over to Tizen's side. At best, we can expect only 20% of the command to side with you. "Defeat? Is that all?" Tyler said it with more sarcasm than he intended. "Two Admiral's ghost." "Well, sir, no. The current buzz indicates those who side with you may no longer even openly debate in the conference. Instead, they may simply remain quiet and let the clear majority take over." Tyler thought the marshal appeared awfully calm, considering his career was nearing its end. Perhaps he was resigned to his fate. Perhaps the Admiral should be too. "Nonsense. You can stop this. You must stop this." "How? What can I do to stop this?" Tyler threw his frustration at Adani. "Good. You'll need that anger. You must open the debate yourself by actively denouncing the plan. You must throw down the gauntlet and force them to openly choose Baiz. How many do you think will have the courage to choose against you to your face?" 80% by current estimates. Tyler responded. "Funny. And I thought you were trying to save this world. Fine. What do you think will happen?" Tyler asked. "I think that many of the weak ones will fold under your pressure. If the palace doesn't have a strong hold on them, they can still choose you without major ramifications. Loyalty is a strong bargaining chip, and you better start playing them if you don't want to be out of it today. Why are you using so many sayings from my world?" Tyler was curious about Adani's choice of words. "When in Rome," was the only response. Tyler noticed a look of concern on the marshal's face. "Okay, Marshal," he began. "I have some ideas for what we can do, but first tell me the other news." "Well, sir, I took the liberty of pursuing additional information about Nayland Hoos." The marshal stopped, as if trying to read the Admiral's reaction. Tyler was certain he showed no reaction despite his real interest. "Go on," Tyler urged. "What did you find?" "I contacted a source within the palace," he started. "A source that I usually never contact. However, I felt this was a particularly important issue that warranted a deeper investigation." The marshal took a breath, once again searching for reactions Tyler refused to give him. "My source reported Nayland is a necessary evil to the Imperial Palace. Although he is welcomed and used by Regent Sneered and the Emperor, the reality is no one trusts him." Yuso 223. He took another breath before continuing. "They even say he has contacts on Krildon that make him both valuable for intelligence, but dangerous as a traitor." The marshal finished with a look of great relief at sharing the dirty details. Unfortunately, it only confirmed what Nayland had already told Tyler. However, it was interesting the palace did not trust him, especially Regent Sneered. "Perhaps this isn't an Imperial trap after all," Adani interjected. "Perhaps not an Imperial trap," Tyler corrected. Adani fell silent, and Tyler noticed the marshal fidgeted during the pauses with Adani. Obviously, the Marshal didn't want the Admiral to have anything to do with Nayland, but he deferred to the Admiral's position before offering this opinion. The Marshal finally broke the silence. "Sir," he said with hesitation, "do you intend on seeing Nayland again?" The look of concern on his face was genuine. Tyler could only imagine how desperate the Marshal was to know what had happened the night before. "Marshal, I realize your concern is real, and I know that you have been waiting patiently for me to share details of my meeting." Tyler watched as his words took effect. "However, I feel that it may be dangerous for me to share details of the meeting with you." "But, sir," the Marshal blurted, sounding less than commanding, "I fear for your safety, especially if you sense danger." "I sense danger," Tyler said in a calm and soothing voice, "but the danger I fear is for your safety." He lied, but needed time to sort this out. He had a strong feeling Nayland was listening to the conversation. "I have never feared anything or anyone, especially a potential traitor." The Marshal put on his strongest military demeanor as he said this, and Tyler truly believed him. The Marshal had been in many campaigns with no signs of fear. His loyalty and dedication were remarkable. Before the Admiral had met Marshal Sliss, it was rumored the Marshal, just a communications officer at the time, had left a fortified compound to adjust a faulty communication dish during a Krildon raid on a mining asteroid. His fearlessness had been noted 224. Admiral's ghost by his commander at the time, but no commendation was given to the young officer since the raid had been caused by a military blunder. At the time, the Imperial Palace and the Supreme Military Command had hushed up the incident to hide serious flaws in the military so early in the war. Not unlike today, Tyler thought. Have they learned nothing since this started? Of course not. They are as stubborn as they are stupid. Adani finished Tyler's thoughts. Your courage is not in question. It is a thin line I walk with Nayland, and I must walk it alone. If things were to go bad, I too could be marked as a traitor. My position would likely save me from such a fate, but I fear you would not be spared. Tyler thought it sounded convincing, but the look on the Marshal's face didn't match this conclusion. Sir, I would face any jury if it meant standing with you. I know, Tyler said. That is why I must ask you to step back from this. Tyler saw the pain and frustration it was causing the Marshal. The Admiral and the Marshal had been together a long time, and seeing the Admiral push him away was probably hard to accept. Tyler felt a pang of guilt. As you wish, sir. The Marshal finally conceded. Please, Gulen, I know what I am doing, and I know that I must do it alone. Tyler said it warmly, using the familiar first name of the Marshal. I need you here, working with my staff to help us in our battle with Thiessen. The Marshal perked slightly. You have an idea, sir? The Marshal asked. Yes, if you are finished sharing great news. The Marshal smiled at the remark. Yes, sir. I am finished. What are you thinking? Marshal, I believe it is time for us to mount an all-out offensive. It is a do-or-die situation, and I do not intend on dying just yet. Tyler put all of the Admiral's essence into the statement and watched the effect on the Marshal. Tyler couldn't tell what emotion showed on the Marshal's face, but he was willing to call it pride. Yes, sir. We are ready and willing. USO 225. Tyler outlined Adani's plan to the Marshal, who soaked it in quietly while jotting notes. He nodded throughout Tyler's narration of what was to surely be a historical moment in the Supreme Military Command, if not Pulto. When he finished, Tyler headed off to the conference, while the Marshal headed back to brief the staff. The Marshal assured Tyler he would be at the conference in time for the showdown. As Tyler made his way through the corridors, He thought about Nayland and wondered when the man would try to make contact. If the palace wasn't backing Nayland, who was? He thought about what Nayland had said about the Admiral's father. Was it all true? Had the Admiral been named after this man? Tyler had to concede the Admiral's childhood memories of Kryldon did not contain much intrigue. It was easy to imagine the Admiral's parents were more than ambassadors to Kryldon, but spies. What a tangled web we weave, Adani said. Indeed, Tyler agreed. The Admiral's soliloquy. Tyler sat through the conference's administrative information with what he hoped was a look of interest. He knew his staff was already all over it, sorting, prioritizing, making contacts, and ensuring the Admiral had a part to play in the internal operations. One of Vice Admiral Thiessen's young officers was finishing his report, and Tyler couldn't help but think the man would have made a great addition to the Admiral's staff. Too bad he chose the wrong side. Like many who now stood beneath the Vice Admiral's banner, Tyler imagined the man had been bought with promises of power and promotion. Was the military really this superficial? Could loyalty simply be bought with promises of promotions? Don't be stupid. They are no different than any other bureaucracy. Adani's admonition stung, but Tyler held his temper in check. He had to admit, his only experience with the military had been selling substances to GIs from Camp Pendleton. It was lucrative, but it didn't really teach him about the military. At the time, he'd sort of thought of them as a joke. Who would want to live their life within such an orderly and controlling system? He looked back through the Admiral's memories and realized the Admiral had likely been one of the few great leaders who had acquired his rank and position by his deeds rather than his connections and political affiliations. It was nothing short of a miracle that he'd survived the brandishing of his father as a traitor. Considering his lack of connections, his accomplishments must have been great to come away from the incident unscathed. Tyler was beginning to see how little the Admiral really knew about the inner workings of this world. He had been a brilliant tactician, leader, and administrator, but he had lacked the knowledge necessary to 226 as the Admiral's soliloquy. 27. Compete in the political arena. Tyler understood why he spent so much time off-world, and why he was quickly losing support in the upcoming battle. No one believed him capable of winning a political fight. "I'm not sure I can," Tyler complained inwardly. "Nonsense. Just let out the Admiral in his full military glory." Adani responded coldly. "Just focus your anger and fear at those who would betray you." "Sure, sounds good on paper," Tyler replied. "Want me to do it?" Adani asked slyly. No, Tyler was adamant about not giving up control. "Then, find a backbone and use it." Adani was right. Tyler needed to focus his energies on the task at hand and put aside his doubts. He brought his attention back to the conference as the young officer finished to a round of mild applause. Apparently everyone else was impressed. At the other end of the table, Vice Admiral Thiessen rose during the applause, a smug look on his face. "Thank you, Officer Trost. A brilliantly presented report. The game is afoot," Tyler thought. "Now," the Vice Admiral began, "we will adjourn for a short break before I present the current thinking on our next move in the war." Well, that was it. They were down to the wire. He looked for the Marshal, but he had not returned. Tyler hoped he'd make it back shortly, as he would want to hear in person the unveiling of the Vice Admiral's plan. Tyler went to fetch a drink and spotted Regent Sneerd and Vice Admiral Thiessen engaged in an intimate discussion. Without the Marshal at his side, Tyler felt out of his league. Regent Sneerd lifted an eye towards the Admiral and showed little surprise at the cold stare Tyler was giving him. He barely stopped talking to give the Admiral a slight nod of his head. Tyler simply left the room. "Admiral Oslu?" A voice called from behind a crowd of people waiting for refreshments. Admiral Oslu. Tyler spotted the young soldier waving a piece of paper as he made his way through the throng, apologizing and saluting the impressive ranks he passed. Yes. What is it? Tyler asked. An urgent call for you, sir, the soldier blurted. You can take it in another room. Is it Grand Marshal Sliss? Tyler was surprised to get a call from the marshal. No, sir, the soldier replied. The gentleman said you would know who it was. The soldier had a look of confusion on his face. Tyler imagined some of it was awe at standing next to and talking with Poulto's hero. 228 Admiral's ghost. Who could it be? Tyler wondered. Suddenly it dawned on him. Naylin. Oh yes, I was expecting a call. Please take me somewhere private to take it. Yes, sir, the soldier said crisply, the look of concern gone from his face. The poor soldier must have been terrified to deliver an unknown caller to the Admiral. Tyler was surprised he had taken the call at all. What had Naylin said to the young soldier to convince him? Tyler was led to a small room down the corridor. The soldier showed him how to access the call before leaving quietly. Tyler sat behind the small desk and turned the console towards him, away from the door. No need to share this with anyone who might walk in. He pushed the blinking button and watched as Naylin's face popped onto the screen. Naylin, Tyler lied. How nice to see you so soon. Save it, Naylin responded critically. I know you are not happy to see me. Fine, Tyler agreed. What do you want? I want your answer, Naylin said. Will you meet with my associates? Then I will meet more than one, Tyler queried. Perhaps, Naylin responded nonchalantly. Perhaps not. Naylin looked bored. Tyler could imagine someone in his position wasn't accustomed to making routine calls. Better to have others pass notes. Tyler steeled himself and thought about what Adani had said. Okay, where and when? When is in 2 days, Naylin replied. And where is on the mining colony of the Cyrnine asteroid? Tyler was stunned. A casino was one thing, but a mining colony was too much. He said as much to Naylin. Look, Admiral, Naylin shot back coldly. My associates and I know you will lose your power today, so what have you got to lose? The Vice Admiral's plan is as good as done, and you no longer have clout to demand anything from anyone. I am a national hero that carries some clout, Tyler blurted before he could think about it. It took Naylin by surprise, but he quickly recovered. Yes, I know. That is why you interest us. That took Tyler by surprise. What could they want with his celebrity? Careful, Tyler. He is very devious, Adani warned. I know, Tyler replied. Let me handle it. The Admiral's soliloquy, 229. Tell me why you want to meet with me, and why it must be off-world, Tyler demanded. Naylin had a momentary look of indecision, and Tyler thought he had pushed him too far, but he had to know more before he was willing to leave the planet, especially if he was to continue the fight with Thiessen. Leaving now would spell disaster for any impetus they might gain after today's showdown. Very well, Admiral. I'll tell you something. Tyler watched Naylin's face turn colder. He had a brief image of him as an intelligence interrogator, grilling people for information, glee on his face. Tyler felt a chill. We have need of your position to help us stop this war. My associates believe it is possible to obtain a truce, and we need your support to ensure it has a chance. Naylin finished his begrudging admission and waited patiently for the Admiral to respond. And why off-world? Tyler asked again. Security, Naylin said simply. Tyler didn't believe it, but he was willing to let it slide. They needed him to further their cause to end the war. Why? He could understand why they would want the national hero to back them, but why did they want to end the war? It wasn't adding up. Considering your current position, Tyler began, I do not see the motivation for ending the war. You seem to profit nicely. Tyler let his counter sink in, knowing he gambled by pushing so hard. Still, he had to know what he was committing to. Once he was off-world, he would be powerless against them. Not that he had much power on Pulto. My motivation is not yours concern, but suffice it to say that even an old warmonger such as myself does not see the value in destroying both worlds. There is always more profit in peace than in war, and I currently hold the upper hand for peacetime profits. Tyler realized the man was right. With his connections on Krildon, he would have an instant network of trade between the two worlds before anyone else. In fact, he could even sell his network contacts to potential buyers, making money in multiple ways. That could be a real motive, but something nagged at Tyler. After all, Nayland was rich already. Was money really a motivator for someone with his wealth? Tyler didn't think so. The rich usually sought power, either through political office or by wielding economic strength. Perhaps that was the real motivation, an economic position that would wield power to influence both worlds. Fair enough, Nayland, but you can imagine my concern for my family. I would be doing them no justice to take your word at face value. 30 Admiral's Ghost. I agree, Nayland replied. In your shoes, I would do the same. However, I am not in your shoes. No more stalling, Admiral. Take action. Tyler didn't like the veiled threat. And you can help me take action. We will take action whether you participate or not. However, as I said before, if you do not participate, you may not like the actions we take. I get the picture, and believe that much of your story. Very well, Nayland said. Will you meet with us or not? Nayland was getting impatient, so Tyler decided to stop pushing. Yes, I will meet with you and your associates. How do I get there? That is up to you, Admiral, but I would create some military pretense. Your position is crumbling, and your activities will be scrutinized. Fine. Where do I go when I get there? Tyler was certain Nayland would say something to the effect that he would be contacted when he arrived. Nayland surprised him. We will put you up at the regional governor's mansion, at his request, and you should enjoy moderate comfort while there. The governor will meet you at the spaceport, honor guard in tow, and escort you back to his mansion. After that, we will organize a meeting. Nayland finished with an even greater look of boredom. He looked off to the side, but Tyler couldn't see who or what it was. Apparently someone spoke with him as he turned back to Tyler. That is all, Admiral. I'll see you on Cyrene in 2 days. Before Tyler could respond, the viewer went blank. Great. Now he was going to an asteroid. He could only imagine the look of shock on the marshal's face. They would need a pretense for going there. Something that wouldn't take away from their efforts in USO. Even better, something that might bolster their efforts in USO. Fat chance of that. Adani scoffed. Excuse me if I am wrong, but wasn't it you who said to pursue this? Tyler accused. Yes, I do believe it was, Adani said coldly. But don't think I have everything planned out. Remember, I can only read your mind. Yes, I remember it all too well. Tyler left the room and headed back to the conference. He helped himself to food and drink, choosing some of the wine provided. As he walked through the procession, he noticed everyone ignored him. They were polite when he walked past, but no one tried to engage him or meet his gaze. Dead man walking, Tyler thought. They are only scared for their own positions, Adani countered. That is why you may yet pull this off. Are you sure you don't want me to, the Admiral's Soliloquy 231, handle this? I have a great deal of experience in this type of situation. In fact, I once was a king on a world where... Please, Tyler stopped him. Spare me your credentials. I'll handle it. Suit yourself. You can't die, so no great matter. Tusia, however. Tyler didn't like what Adani implied, and he thought about Tusia and what she would think about his going off-world. It was a major reason for their marital strife. although not the only one. Tyler thought about Illyria and cringed. The Admiral had an affair with her for years, and since Tyler broke it off, she had remained eerily quiet and restrained. It scared Tyler a little, but he figured the Marshal had dealt with it behind the scenes. As Tyler moved towards the conference table, he spotted Marshal Sliss in the corridor. He made his way towards the door as the Marshal signaled him into the corridor. "Yes. What is it?" Tyler asked. "They're about to begin. I know, but I need to tell you what our staff came up with." Tyler noted the Marshal had a note of confidence in his voice, and Tyler imagined they had a plan that might work. Tyler didn't want to spoil the moment, so he held off telling the Marshal about Nayland and the future off-world mental journey. "Go on," Tyler urged. "Well, sir, it will require you to denigrate yourself and the entire Supreme Military Command for the battle that nearly cost you your life." Tyler thought about that, but decided his reputation was already in question. "A gamble, but continue. We believe if you were to condemn the last attempt at a major offensive, then you could adequately argue caution for the next one." Tyler was following the train of logic, but let the Marshal completely outline the plan of attack. The Marshal caught his breath, clearly excited by the prospects. "If we urge caution, we can bog down the plan in committee meetings to review the overall plan. During those reviews, we can use the time to develop an alternative strategy while punching holes in theirs. We believe this line of attack may provide your supporters the opportunity to take action without directly rejecting the Vice Admiral's plan." The Marshal finished, waiting eagerly for the Admiral to respond. Tyler was amused and satisfied to see the fight back in the Marshal's eyes. He had to admit, it might be what they needed to stall the offensive. In fact, it might even buy them the pretense to go off-world. "My congratulations, Marshal. Your plan may just work." "Don't congratulate me, sir. The staff came up with it on their own. I only acted as a sounding board. Officer Sloss deserves a lot of the credit." "I think Officer Sloss deserves a promotion," Tyler thought. 232 Admiral's Ghost. "Plan a party for them, Marshal. They deserve it." Tyler was impressed with the Admiral's staff. They were clearly up to the challenges facing them. "Yes, sir." Both headed into the conference just as the Vice Admiral was about to start. They took their seats calmly, nodding to the Vice Admiral to begin. "Before I begin laying out our future plans, I would like to inform you we have a very special visitor who would like to sit in on these proceedings. Without undue delay, I would like to call you all to attention as I present our great leader of Pulto, Emperor Hallan Yuso IV." Everyone stood at attention, including Tyler, as a small entourage of attendants entered the room, clearing a way for the Emperor. The Emperor moved to the back of the room towards a table emptied for his arrival. Tyler noted the Emperor would not sit at the main table, clearly a political move intended to reinforce the Vice Admiral's new, albeit temporary, position. "Revered Supreme Military Command," the Emperor formally opened. "I thank you for this opportunity to observe your plans for the future of our great planet. Our lives are in your capable hands, and we look forward to hearing how you will defeat our enemies." With his usual calm demeanor, the Emperor sat down, waiting for the Vice Admiral. Everyone retook their seats, and Tyler cast a glance at the Marshal, who was clearly concerned with the Emperor's presence. Tyler could imagine what went through the Marshal's mind. Who would stand up for the Admiral with the Emperor next to Thiessen? Tyler didn't care. They had a plan of attack, and Emperor or no Emperor, he had no choice but to execute it. As the Vice Admiral began, Tyler caught a glimpse of Regent Sneerd sitting next to the Emperor. Tyler thought he saw a grin on the Regent's face. Clearly, it was the Regent's idea to invite the Emperor. "Distinguished guests," the Vice Admiral started, nodding towards the Emperor, "and distinguished colleagues. Now is the time for our immediate action to end this war in victory." Tyler was impressed with his start. The Vice Admiral was well coached. Chateau. Vice Admiral Thiessen spent nearly 4 hours outlining his plan. Tyler analyzed it, using the Admiral's considerable experience and skills, and had to admit it was pretty good. However, it depended on too many positive assumptions that were based on questionable intelligence. The Admiral's Soliloquy 233. Overall, the plan was basically what Tyler and the Admiral's staff had expected, with only a few minor surprises. Again, these surprises were based on best-case scenarios. Tyler watched the other members of the command and hoped they saw the same flaws he did. Several of the officers purportedly on the Admiral's side were taking furious notes during the presentation, and some even used their communication devices to confer with their staff. They were either preparing an offensive or simply preparing to execute the Vice Admirals. Those listening intently were already on board with the plan. Tyler groaned inwardly at how many he counted. Adani tried to encourage him. "Don't lose hope. Your plan is still a good one, even with the Emperor here." Tyler wasn't sure he agreed with the assessment, but he began reviewing what he would say when the time presented itself. He knew he would have to turn over control to the Admiral's memories, allowing that lingering essence to dictate the speech and provide the forceful presence that was so commanding. "I am still willing to do it," Adani said meekly. "Sounds like you already know my answer," Tyler countered. Adani fell silent, and Tyler hoped he would remain that way. Tyler watched the Vice Admiral begin the summary of his plan, and wondered if the Vice Admiral would be so bold as to deny questions and comments as protocol dictated. The conference applauded loudly as the Vice Admiral finished, and Tyler and the Marshal joined in, although neither put forth much effort. "Thank you." The Vice Admiral almost blushed from the attention, clearly pleased with himself. "Thank you all." Tyler noted both the Regent and the Emperor were smiling, feeling confident they'd backed the right horse. Tyler hoped they were wrong. He waited patiently for the applause to subside. As everyone stopped clapping and began to talk among themselves, the Vice Admiral interrupted the chatter. "Honored colleagues, I beg your indulgence of a few minutes to refresh ourselves before we open the proceedings to questions and comments." Tyler noted the Vice Admiral looked directly at him when he said this. Tyler didn't flinch or acknowledge the Vice Admiral at all. At least he was going to follow protocol. Tyler wondered if the Emperor would stay. He suspected his presence was intended for the official unveiling anyway. Everyone milled around talking with each other, congratulating the Vice Admiral or holding conferences with assistants. Tyler looked at the Marshal, who clearly wanted to use the break time to talk. Instead, Tyler got up and walked towards the other end of the table. The Vice Admiral was shaking hands with several members of the 234 Admiral's Ghost Command who were in his pocket. The Vice Admiral smiled broadly and soaked in the attention being poured on him. Tyler assumed the Vice Admiral figured the post of Supreme Military Commander was his. "Vice Admiral," Tyler started using his rank as a signal of his real position. "You and your staff are to be commended for such a wonderful presentation." Tyler saw how his lack of enthusiasm for the plan affected those standing around. Even the Emperor was suddenly interested in the conversation. "Don't worry, gentlemen. I am not going to start the battle just yet." "Thank you, Admiral." The Vice Admiral responded, the smile fading from his face. "Coming from you, it is a great compliment." So the Vice Admiral will play it coolly. "Yes," Tyler began again. "Your attention to detail and strategic insights are truly to be commended." That much was true. But the overall plan, well, that was yet to be seen. Thank you again, Admiral. You are most generous with your praise. The Vice Admiral bowed slightly as he said this. Yes, Admiral, the Emperor interjected. Great praise indeed. Is this to mean that you approve of his plan? Tyler thought the Emperor almost said our plan, but caught himself before he had. Tyler bowed as the Emperor moved towards them. Everyone followed suit. Tyler noted several younger officers moved away from what they saw as a pivotal engagement. Well, sir, I believe it has the making of a great offensive, but it may still be premature to endorse it fully. Tyler watched as his words sunk in. It had zero effect on the Emperor. Tyler hated how unreadable the man was. Instead of reacting, he merely stared at Tyler, as though measuring him. I see. Then you intend on sharing your thoughts with us after the break? The Emperor asked. The gauntlet had been thrown down, and Tyler was now committed. I certainly will, Your Eminence. Tyler agreed, along with many other opinions, I imagine. Something this big will surely draw a variety of thoughts from many on the command. Tyler said it loud enough so even those outside the conversation heard him. He hoped it would spur them to action, or at least an open backing of his plan to stall. Tyler noticed how quiet the room had become with such a rare conversation between the two greatest men on Pulto. Good, Tyler thought. Let them see how I am not afraid to stand up for my convictions. Easy, lad. Don't push too hard. You don't want to steal your own thunder, Hadani cautioned. The Admiral's soliloquy, 235. Very good, Admiral. That is why I am here, to see our Supreme Military Command at work. We look forward to your thoughts. The Emperor turned abruptly to walk out of the room. Everyone bowed as he and his entourage swept silently into the corridor. Tyler knew the proceedings wouldn't begin until they returned. He hoped the Emperor wouldn't make them wait too long. Excuse me, Vice Admiral, Tyler said. I need to attend to a few items before we restart. Tyler didn't wait for a response and headed back towards the Marshal. Tyler thought he heard the Vice Admiral stutter something in response, and Tyler's quick dismissal of the Vice Admiral was not lost on the others. The Vice Admiral does not carry the power in this room. Tyler grinned inwardly. The Emperor and his hero are the real power. Don't get cocky, Hadani chastised. The battle has yet to begin. Tyler ignored the rebuke and walked out of the room with the Marshal in tow. Before returning to the conference, Tyler and the Marshal walked through their plan of action. Tyler practiced some of the things he would say on the Marshal, who gave feedback. Tyler thought he would modify some of the statements, but keep others as he had originally planned. All in all, they felt remarkably confident as they headed back to the meeting. On the way, Tyler was stopped by another soldier who held a message from Tusia. Tyler read it carefully before rejoining the Marshal. The note was simple. Good luck, dear. The Marshal has made me aware of your plans. For what it is worth, I agree with your actions, as does my father. I know you'll be late, but I am planning on an intimate dinner for the two of us when you get home. Love. Tusia. Tyler erased the message and handed the device back to the soldier. He joined the Marshal as they returned to the conference. He thought about Tusia's note, and warm feelings grew within him. At least he had a date to look forward to. They entered the conference room late as the proceedings were already underway. Even the Emperor sat quietly watching the Vice Admiral. Ah, Admiral, sorry we couldn't wait for you, the Vice Admiral pleaded. However, we just began. Vice Admiral's ghost. Don't worry, Tyler said. I apologize for my tardiness. I received a note from my wife. Tyler saw the Vice Admiral didn't know how to respond to his reference to his wife. It was common knowledge around the Supreme Military Command that the Admiral and his wife had been apart for some time. Their appearance together was confusing to many in the room. "Oh, good," the Vice Admiral said clumsily. "Well then, we will continue. We will. Secretary Dorn was just sharing with us his opinion of the offensive. Please continue, Secretary." The Vice Admiral nodded to the man who started once again. Tyler ignored Dorn's comments as he already knew the Secretary was backing the Vice Admiral. In fact, it was rumored he had helped craft much of the plan. The Admiral's memories held admiration for Secretary Dorn. Apparently, he had been a strong tactician when he was younger. Somewhere down the line, he had moved away from the Admiral's viewpoints and sided with the Vice Admiral. Tyler couldn't understand why. The Admiral had been responsible for most of the man's promotions. "You stayed off-world too long, Admiral," Tyler thought. Was Secretary Dorn also being blackmailed? Tyler wondered how many were directly beholden to the Imperial Palace for some reason or another. The Secretary finished with applause, a look of satisfaction on the Vice Admiral's face. "Thank you, Secretary," the Vice Admiral said, smiling. Who else would care to weigh in on this issue? Tyler noted a couple of his supporters raised their hands. Good, Tyler thought. They are ready to fight. As the Vice Admiral was ready to acknowledge one of the secretaries, Tyler interrupted by standing up. "Excuse me, gentlemen," he started. "If you would defer your questions, I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to express my views." Everyone nodded as their eyes darted between the Vice Admiral, Tyler, and the Emperor. Tyler didn't wait for the Vice Admiral to recognize him before starting. "As you all know, my previous experience has no equal in this room. I have won more battles than many of you have fought. However, many of you have fought alongside me in those the Admiral's Soliloquy 237 victories, and you know too well how easily victory can turn to defeat." Tyler nodded to several who'd played pivotal roles in many of those battles. "The Vice Admiral has presented us with nothing less than a brilliant offensive." Tyler moved his arm towards the Vice Admiral in a show of acceptance. The Vice Admiral nodded, clearly troubled by the compliment bestowed upon him by his challenger. "Just wait, Vice Admiral. I'm getting to my objections. If it weren't for our current circumstances, I wouldn't hesitate in backing this plan." He paused to letting the words take effect. "Yes, gentlemen, I am openly not backing this plan. Instead, I must urge extreme caution before we proceed down this path. Like our previous offensive, we are excited by the prospects of catching our enemy off guard. However, like our previous offensive, we could easily find defeat if we are not careful. I have always said an aggressive approach is one that will win a battle. But I am also a realist and must concede we lack adequate intelligence about our enemy." He stopped, watching as his clear slap in the face for everyone involved in the last offensive took effect. They knew a lack of intelligence was partly to blame for the failure. Some still suspected sabotage, but no one had anyone to point the finger at. "Naylan, were you involved?" The thought suddenly hit Tyler. "We are the best and brightest of Pulto, and we will not repeat our mistakes." He gave them some relief from his stinging words. "Instead, we will learn from them, and they work hard to ensure this plan succeeds. We will not let down our troops, our families, our planet, or our Emperor." Tyler put the full commanding presence of the Admiral into that last statement. Put them down, then rally them up. That was how you led. Now for the big surprise, Tyler thought. Not even the Marshal knew about this. It was an enormous gamble, but one that might succeed. "You attract more bees with honey than vinegar, eh, Tyler?" Adani said slyly. "More pearls of wisdom from my world, Adani?" Tyler asked. This time, you hit the nail on the head. 238. Admiral's ghost. Tyler waited for the group to calm down. The Vice Admiral looked concerned, as did the Regent. Only the Emperor wore his usual calm demeanor. As the members of the command quieted, Tyler walked down towards the end of the table where the Vice Admiral sat. The Vice Admiral had a look of confusion on his face. In fact, everyone in the room was confused. All the better, Tyler thought. Just wait till you hear the next bit of news. He stopped next to the Vice Admiral and turned to face the entire conference. The silence was eerie, and everyone held their breath. Tyler imagined what went through their minds. Was the Admiral going to kick the Vice Admiral out and resume his position as Supreme Military Commander? Was he going to unveil his own plan? Tyler waited, letting the tension build. "Gentlemen," he began slowly and calmly, "I am no longer a young man, and I have seen far too many battles in my lifetime." No one breathed. "Like you, I want to see victory and an end to this war. It has become our life, our burden, and our pain." He paused again to watch the effect of his words. Even the Emperor looked confused. "Here goes nothing. That is why I propose the following." He placed his right arm around the Vice Admiral's shoulder and spelled it out. "I am going to officially relinquish my position as Supreme Military Commander, effective this moment. I am firmly backing Vice Admiral Thiessen as my replacement, and hope the Imperial Palace will see fit to make my recommendation permanent." The shock on their faces was immediate. He continued before they could respond. "I further propose that my new role within the Supreme Military Command will be to head up a commission to study, refine, and assist in the execution of the Vice Admiral's offensive plan." The crowd was stunned. Even the Marshal's mouth hung open in dismay. "With the help of my distinguished colleagues, we will make every effort possible to quickly put this plan into action. We will use everything we have learned from our last offensive to ensure success in this one." The Admiral's soliloquy, Turner 39, he had them now. Who could stand up and say no to this proposal? Even the Emperor looked abashed. "Sure, I'll give you the carrot, but I'll still hold the whip." As if on cue, one of the Admiral's staunch supporters stood. "I'll second that motion and request to participate on that committee." Another secretary joined the first. "I'll third that motion and also request to sit on the committee." The room erupted into a mix of applause, discussion, and clear confusion. He had taken away their power by giving it to them. He watched the Regent and the Emperor closely, while people stood behind him congratulating the Vice Admiral. The Vice Admiral looked like a deer in headlights. Clearly, he had not expected anything like this. As if reading Tyler's mind, the Emperor stood. The room fell silent as everyone retook their seats and waited for him to speak. He glanced at the Admiral with what Tyler thought was a look of admiration. It passed quickly as he turned to address the command. "Admiral?" The Emperor turned back towards Tyler. "It is as though we share the same mind." He smiled, but it didn't look warm. "I too believe that the Vice Admiral is the perfect replacement for your hard-to-fill position. I accept your resignation with deep regrets, but fully embrace your nomination for successor to take effect immediately. My staff will sort out the details later." He smiled at the Vice Admiral, who was lost in confusion. Tyler supposed he couldn't believe it was actually happening. No fight, no battle, just a quick nomination. "As for your heading up the commission," the Emperor paused to let the crowd catch up. Like the Admiral, he also knew how to work it. "I wholeheartedly support the action and praise you for your foresight in ensuring we don't make the same mistakes as before." Tyler wondered how much that hurt the Emperor to concede. Still, they had their puppet. Tyler guessed they would accept one victory, even if it cost them another. "Thank you, Emperor," Tyler responded. I will serve on the commission with the honor, loyalty, and integrity that I served with as your supreme military commander." Tyler bowed in deference. 240 Admiral's Ghost. "I know you will," the Emperor said flatly before signaling his entourage to follow him out. Everyone stood, bowing as their great leader left the conference. Apparently everything the Emperor had wanted was complete. The Vice Admiral stood up and tried to take charge of the ensuing chaos. Tyler smiled inside and walked back to his seat. The Marshal shot him a look of concern and pride. They would have much to do in the coming days. "You surprise me, Earth Boy," Adani praised. "Had I not been reading your thoughts, I would not have seen this coming." Tyler accepted the praise without comment. Pulto would be buzzing tonight. The following day brought an onslaught of press conferences, media interviews, and meetings with Supreme Military Command staff. Tyler felt he'd handled them well, especially playing up his new role as a consultant to the Supreme Military Commander, Admiral Thiessen. Of course, nothing was mentioned about the commission he was heading to analyze and help execute the next offensive. That was highly classified information. Once Tyler told Tusia about his resignation and new position, she accepted it gracefully. She wore her placid face, but Tyler believed he'd seen surprise twinkling within her eyes. He assured her his role in the military would slowly diminish after the next campaign. At that time, he promised, they would build a normal life together in Two-Land. As always, she accepted these promises with grace and unnerving calm. After surviving the multitude of press events, Tyler began building his new commission. Because he headed it, he had the final word on who would join. Despite this obvious power, he split the board in half between supporters of Admiral Oslu and those of Admiral Thiessen. He maintained control to break gridlock should it occur. All nominees accepted graciously and swore to uphold the virtues of the military code of ethics. Tyler sensed they wanted an end to the war, but now that he had taken over the administrative aspects of the offensive, most were willing to entertain a more cautious approach. The Admiral's soliloquy to our former. Marshal Sleece and Admiral Oslu's staff accepted the change immediately and demonstrated their unwavering ability to organize, plan, and execute. Their efforts essentially led the commission with Tyler providing his input. They embraced their admiral's resignation, although the Marshal reported disquieting rumors about careers and futures. Tyler nipped it in the bud by instructing Marshal Sleece to assure all the staff their military progression would not be hindered by a change in their leader's status. In fact, Tyler promised future positions of their choice, assuming they succeeded with the commission. It staved off their fears, and most returned their focus to the task at hand. Good thing for Tyler, the task was large and required administrative skills that surpassed that of Admiral Oslu. Tyler was again relieved to have Marshal Sleece and the Admiral's wonderful staff. By the end of the day, they were well on their way to completing a fully functioning commission with a charter, agenda, and schedule nearly fleshed out. It was nothing short of a miracle, and had required a great deal of cooperation between all the staff in the military command. They even acquired special offices for the commission located on the 7th floor below the military complex. It happened so rapidly, even Tyler had yet to see the new quarters. Everything fell into place, and Tyler felt they were on track to preventing a would-be disaster. He had several last-minute issues to resolve before retiring to his quarters. The largest was getting field trials underway on several shafts near completion. They would try to shorten the length of the trials, but he felt confident they couldn't be completed in less than 6 months. the Imperial Palace and the Supreme Military Commander would not be overjoyed with the news. But if they could convince the Commission to agree with the assessment, Thiessen would have no choice but to back the plan. Unfortunately, Tyler still needed an excuse for his mental journey to Sirnin. He dreaded meeting Naylin and the associates, but he recognized the danger if he didn't. So far, a viable solution that wouldn't raise suspicions eluded him. He sat quietly in an empty conference room, racking his brain. Sadly, he couldn't rely on the Marshal, since he wanted to remove the man from the threat Naylin posed. "I have an idea," Adani's voice offered quietly, 242, to Admiral's ghost. Tyler wasn't in the mood for Adani, yet he needed to resolve the issue. "Fine, share." Tyler felt Adani bristling from his clipped response, but he didn't care. "I see from the Admiral's memories there are many military installations throughout the asteroid belt. In the past, the Admiral has hosted meetings to discuss strategies with his commanders. Although they never met on Sirnin, it is as likely a place as any." Tyler chewed on the suggestion. It made sense, but it was a meeting that was typically reserved for the Supreme Military Commander, not a commissioner. How could he pull it off without looking like he was taking power from Admiral Thiessen? The last thing he needed was for Admiral Thiessen to be involved. "I've got it." A revelation came unbidden from the Admiral's memories. "We can hold an administrative meeting with the second-in-command rather than commanders." Tyler knew the second-in-command usually directed supplies and administrative matters for units. This freed commanders to deal with strategic operations, troop movements, and battlefield tactics. "Perfect." "Okay," Adani agreed. "What is your pretense?" "My pretense?" Tyler knew it was a good question, but he didn't have one prepared. Adani interrupted. "How about we plan the meetings around a logistics theme to validate the supply chain required for the offensive? It seems like a logical thing a commission might do." Tyler didn't want to admit it, but Adani was on target. They had to validate the supply chain anyway. Why not do it with the officers in the field? It would bypass the higher-ranking officers that were in charge of units and regions, but it made sense to work it from the bottom up rather than the top down. After all, who had more to gain or lose than those on the front doses? "Perfect, Adani. You may be useful yet." "Interesting," Adani replied flatly. "I was thinking the same thing about you." Tyler left the conference room to track down the Marshal and get the new plans underway. He needed the meeting 3 days from now, but he had to be there in 1. It was tight, but if anyone could pull it off, the Marshal could. As he walked down the corridor, he thought about telling Tusia he was going off-world. He didn't relish the prospects, but the Admiral's soliloquy 243 had to face up to the task. His mind was filled with multiple ways to break the news to her, but everything seemed likely to undermine the progress they had made in their reunification. As he turned into the staff offices, he decided he would be direct and truthful. Telling Tusia turned out to be easy. Getting her to stay behind, however, turned out to be impossible. It didn't help Illyria had to go as well. Tyler finally succumbed and agreed to take her. Deep down, he was glad she was coming, despite the danger Naylin presented. Tusia hadn't cared about Naylin or the reasons why Tyler had to go. She simply insisted that she join him. The Marshal was just as difficult to convince to stay behind. In the end, Tyler had to plead with him to take charge of the commission to keep it moving forward. Tyler convinced him he was the only one capable of making that happen. Finally, this plea to the Marshal's professionalism made him agree. However, he insisted sending Officer Slas and Illyria in his place. Tyler agreed, although he wasn't in favor of Illyria. At least Officer Slas was nearly as capable as the Marshal. Tyler was surprised by the speed of their mental journey. Apparently, ranking military officers had access to the best transports available. In his case, the transport was a euphoric state speed reconnaissance ship outfitted for VIP transport. Tyler recognized the ship within the Admiral's memories. The Admiral had used them to travel off-world or between the flagship and other locations. Even with the Admiral's memories, the speed surprised him. Nonetheless, he was happy if he got there quickly. Staring into the blackness of space reminded him of the loneliness he'd felt before taking over the Admiral. At least now, he had Tusia by his side. He was amazed at the size and appearance of the spaceport. It was incredibly clean and modern for being on an asteroid. Of course, it was the regional headquarters for nearly all the asteroid colonies, so appearances made sense. The Admiral had never visited Cyrnine, so Tyler wasn't sure what to expect. Many said the asteroid colonies controlled the war because they controlled much of the raw resources it required. The Admiral's memories underscored this fact, as nearly every battle had been fought to protect a colony, and the rich resources they 2-4 Admiral's Ghost provided. Although some asteroids were strategic, most were an intricate link in the supply chain feeding the war effort. Regional Governor Halnies gave them a welcome befitting the Emperor. Although Tyler would have passed on the press conference, he donned his best face and gave a commanding speech to rally the spirits of those whose hard work in the mining operations were so critical. The applause was deafening, but Tyler took it calmly as befitting the national hero. The governor even arranged a ceremony to present keys to the colony for the Admiral and Tusia. They accepted humbly, although Tyler was certain neither would ever return to Cyrnine. It pleased the governor, the press, and the crowd gathered to see such a prestigious celebrity. Tyler wasn't sure why, but he imagined the people would look more like miners. But they looked like everyone he'd seen in Yuso. The governor later admitted over 75% of the inhabitants of Cyrnine were actually corporate or government employees involved in the commercial and legal aspects of mining commerce. The mining operations had shrunk on Cyrnine since the war began. The asteroid didn't contain the proper concentrations of the resources needed for the war effort. So much of the operations had been moved to neighboring asteroids that better fit the profile. In fact, much of the Cyrnine mining was now devoted to supplying the asteroid colonies themselves. Construction supplies and natural minerals used in food supplements were generally all that was produced on Cyrnine. Tyler was impressed as they drove through Cyrnine in a small ground car with virtually no security to escort them. It surprised Tyler at first, but then he realized how tight the comings and goings of an asteroid colony were controlled. He was certain no elements on the asteroid would want to harm Pulto's national hero, except maybe Naylan. The thought dampened Tyler's mood, but it lifted again as he watched the city of Cyrnine pass by out the window. If he hadn't known he was on an asteroid, he wouldn't be able to tell Cyrnine from any other city on Pulto. It was magnificent, with towering buildings beneath a false sunny sky projected on the protective dome. It was a truly monumental accomplishment, and Tyler said as much to the governor. The governor accepted the compliment and began reciting the many outdoor activities the city boasted. The Admiral's Soliloquy, 245. Tyler sensed the excitement in the governor's voice and understood why this man was governor for so many years. Most in a powerful position such as his would covet positions back on Pulto, but apparently this man refused such posts. He claimed to enjoy the freedom of space and the challenges presented within an asteroid belt. Tyler guessed the man was an adventurer, a person who liked the great frontier. Like so many governors, the marshal informed Tyler the man was a relative of the Emperor's. It was one reason for his position despite the fact the relationship was distant. Tyler thought distance might be why the governor was willing to associate with Naylin. He could definitely see the advantages to the colonies if the war ended, although they would lose a substantial amount of business directed to the war effort. They would also stop suffering the tremendous losses often accompanying a raid or battle. Tyler looked at the governor with renewed interest as the man recounted the 100 or so cafes that catered to the varied tastes of the city's inhabitants. Tosia was as gracious as ever, and clearly had the man enamored. She kept the conversation going while Tyler watched the sights and thought about his upcoming meeting. He still hadn't told the marshal about it, although he now suspected the man had figured something was going on besides the logistics conference. Tyler didn't like deceiving the marshal, but he wanted to protect him from whatever harm might result from the meeting. A chill ran down Tyler's spine as he thought about it. He looked at Tosia and smiled. She returned his smile and turned back to the governor's commentary. He hoped her safety was not in jeopardy. With help from the governor's staff, they settled into their extravagant quarters within the governor's mansion. Tyler believed it would be more accurate to call it a palace. The Admiral's memories confirmed regional governors lived posh lifestyles. Being an extension of the Imperial Palace, this made sense. However, it was in stark contrast with the functional military style the Admiral was accustomed to. The elegance and decadence took Tyler's breath away. On Earth, he'd never known anyone who had lived so well. Even the 246 Admiral's ghost posh estate at Tooland paled in comparison to the richly adorned walls and ceilings that surrounded them. Tosia was not impressed by the extravagance, but then her life in Yuso was rubbing elbows with the rich and powerful. He supposed this was nothing more than she had seen elsewhere, either at the palace or through council functions. Her father regularly attended great balls, and Tyler was certain Tosia did too. He watched her change out of her traveling clothes and slip on an elegant but simple gown for the dinner. She was beautiful, and Tyler felt himself blush. At that moment, Tosia noticed his attention and also blushed. "Naylin, please, we must get ready for dinner," she pleaded. I know, it's just seeing you looking so peaceful and beautiful. Well, I don't know. I guess it turns me on." She smiled, but continued blushing. "Sorry, Tosia. I guess the stress has affected me." She didn't respond as she stood up and moved towards him. He felt excited by her closeness and watched as her skin reacted with a swirl of colors. He didn't know why, but she looked even more radiant than usual. This made him even more excited. "Tosia, She stopped him with a finger to his mouth. She stepped back and gently removed her gown, letting it fall to the floor around her ankles. She was radiant, her naked body, filled with the colorful lights of their shared excitement, moved towards the bed, beckoning him to join her. He was under a spell, but quickly removed his clothing and slipped under the covers to join her. Between the heat of their bodies and the dance of colors on their skin, Tyler was certain the bedding would catch fire. It wouldn't have mattered. He was swept away in the flames of their passion. Both lay quiet, exhausted from their love. He could not remember feeling this way with Linda, but he couldn't tell how much was his desire and how much was that of the Admiral. Despite this conundrum, he was happy to be a part of it. Tosia rolled towards him and placed her arm across his chest, snuggling into the crook of his arm. It felt good to hold her. "Naylin," Tosia broke the silence, the Admiral's soliloquy 247. "Yes," he replied. "I have to tell you something, but I don't know if this is a good time or not." She stopped, confusion wrinkling her face. He brushed her hair aside and pulled her close. "I'm sure now is a fine time. We are alone after all." I know," she agreed. "It's just, Well, it's just that it is something I should have told you a long time ago. Suddenly, Tyler's curiosity was piqued as he felt a twinge of concern. Okay, he replied. I am sure whatever it is, you had your reasons for waiting. He let his words hang patiently, even though he was beginning to churn inside. What could it be? An affair? Health problems? Too many bad things came to mind, and he desperately tried to shut them out. Her look of concern deepened, and she appeared locked in indecision. Tyler stroked her shoulders and moved another lock of hair away from her eyes. As he did so, he noticed a small tear running down her cheek.